Hi friends, welcome back. So you got a job offer. Now you want to know, is this a good offer? Now I know you've already analyzed all the money and the perks, but if we took the money and the perks off the table, do you think your offer is still a good offer? Well, today we're going to chat about the 6 other things I think you should really consider before you sign that employment contract. And this is stuff that's beyond paychecks and benefits, the other really important stuff that you might overlook. So let's talk about the most important one of all, and that's mentorship and support staff. If you're starting a new job in either a new department or a new specialty, you need to evaluate the mentorship and the support staff that's available to you within your company. And when I say mentorship, I'm mostly referring to your supervising position. You need to ask yourself, how accessible will your supervising position be to you? Can you reach them in person, via phone, via text, or only via email? This is very important because your supervising position will essentially serve as your mentor. And you want to have a mentor who's willing to invest the time and the efforts into your personal and professional growth. So within your first few months on the job, you want to know if your supervising position will be training you, or will they pass that training off to the lead PA? Or maybe that lead PA is really busy and they're going to pass off your training to the PA that just graduated 8 months ago from PA school. That's a little risky. Actually, wait, let's back up. Do we even know if there's anyone who's been training you on your first few months on the job? Or are they just gonna throw you in the wildfire and assume you know how to do your job without any training? Unfortunately, this kind of sink or swim approach is very, very common in the medical industry. It's common, but it's definitely not normal, and I would advise against it. So don't take a job with no training, especially from your supervising position or a lead PA who's been in the practice for many, many years. And as for a support staff, you really wanna know if you have a full team to assist you in doing your job to the best of your ability. Will you have a nurse, an MA, a scribe, or a surgical tech that's assigned to you? Or are you expected to share one MA with 3 other providers? Because trust me when I say this, it makes a world of a difference to have an RN or an MA or a tech assigned to you personally for the whole 8-hour shift or 12-hour shift or 24-hour shift. Whatever shift you're doing, you want one person who is basically assisting you with your day-to-day assignments, because they will help you do all these tasks and ensure that your workday runs really smoothly. And trust me, I would die if I didn't have my MA or my nurse with me at all time. Okay, I'm a little dramatic, but you get what I'm saying. Now, on the other hand, if you're expected to share one MA with 3 other providers, that's a major, major red flag, because you might find yourself really overwhelmed with the workload and you have to deal with these little fires in the practice or in the hospital all by yourself. And that's a lot for a new grad to deal with. And let's not forget about our colleagues. I'm talking about the MDs, the other PAs, the other NPs that you work with. Will you have colleagues to consult with and to learn from? And you really want to have plenty of colleagues around you, because these are seasoned professionals, seasoned providers, and collaborating with them is invaluable, especially when you're starting out, because they'll help answer all of your questions. And I know you have a lot of questions, clinical questions and non-clinical questions. You want to know how to chart more effectively, or how to get these medications or these procedures approved by the insurance company, and you want some hand-holding. Somebody give you some positive feedback or negative feedback and tell you how to deal with work drama. You want those seasoned providers to give you some guidance, because if you find yourself working with a skeleton crew all by yourself on nights, on a weekend shift, or in a solo practice, you're going to be in deep doo-doo. I mean, it's pretty common. A lot of new grads fall for this trap where they find themselves working in a solo practice or on a night shift or a weekend shift where they have no support and they're all on their own and they just feel really overwhelmed. And this is where mistakes happen. Big, big fatal mistakes. So don't do that to yourself. And before we continue, I need to remind you to hit the notification button and the subscribe button, because we need to tell YouTube that we need more PA related content. So help me boost the algorithm. Now let's talk about work-life balance. You want to consider your work hours and your on-call responsibilities before you jump into a new job. Ask yourself, what are my work hours? Are my work hours reasonable? Will I have long work hours or unpredictable work hours that might interfere with my personal life? And trust me, you want a personal life. I know as new grads, you're all ambitious young beaver and you want to work, make that money. But trust me, that is not a very sustainable lifestyle. You want to have a personal life so you don't burn out too quickly. So you want to ask yourself, does your job offer flexible scheduling and reasonable time off? Do you have 1 week of PTO or 5 weeks of PTO in a year? That's a huge difference. Do you need to apply for PTO 3 months in advance? This sounds really silly, I know, but that was my reality. In my last urgent care job, we were asked to give 3-month notice for any PTO we wanted to take. Is that outrageous? Absolutely. Is it normal? No. But did I agree to it? Of course I did. And I would tell you, that did not make my life easy at all. Now, if you're signing up for a normal 40-hour work week, you have to ask the other team members if they actually work 40 hours a week. And the other team members I'm referring to is your MDs, your PAs, and your NPs, those colleagues of yours. Don't be afraid to ask them to share their experience, especially during your interviews. You want to know if they actually stay late and work overtime without getting paid additional compensation, or are they fairly compensated with overtime pay for any work past 40 hours? Or maybe it's past 36 hours, or maybe it's past 50 hours. You need to know this kind of information to make an informed decision. And if you're on a salary job, it's not uncommon for your employer to expect you to stay an additional hour or even two every single day to clean up the workflow for tomorrow. That basically means they want you to work an additional 5 to 10 hours a week without pay. And if you agree to do that, you're either a really dedicated employee of the year, or you're just a real big sucker because you allow your employers to abuse you. Now, I would say that you should never work any additional hour without getting more compensation. So you have to be really aggressive in how you ask for it and make sure that's in your contract. Because really, maintaining a healthy work-life balance is very important. Consistently staying after hours to charge, answer messages, or handle any admin tasks, that is not a sustainable lifestyle in the long run. And I know it might not seem like a really big deal as a new grad, but as you start a family or you develop other priorities, your perspective on work-life balance will change. And you're gonna wanna spend the weekends with your kids or your dog or even a pet, I don't know, whatever you have at home. You're not gonna wanna work late every single day. It's exhausting because your job is not your job. It is not your life, and it certainly is not your identity. So before you take a job, evaluate how this is gonna affect your personal life and your stress level, and make sure that you're signing up for something that is just a job and it's not going to consume your personal life. So find a job where you have a really solid work-life balance, where you leave work at work, and when you're at home, it's just you, your family, and your friends, and your downtime. That's important. Now, let's talk about professional autonomy. Professional autonomy refers to the level of independence and decision-making authority you'll have in your role as a PA. So consider this before you accept the job. In this role, will you be able to make clinical decisions independently? And will you be working closely with your supervising physician? Does your practice restrict your autonomy? This means that they only allow you to see patients with low-level complaints, like URIs, UTIs, or foot pain. You want to determine what level of autonomy you desire and if the job offer meets those expectations. Now, let's take an example of the ER, the emergency department. Many ERs assign PAs to the fast track area and restrict them from treating patients with chest pain, abdominal pain, or neural complaints. So giving those complex cases only to the physicians. While this might not seem like a big deal at first, especially for a new grad, it significantly limits your autonomy and your potential for learning and growing. And if you limit your learning, you limit your earning. The less skills you have, the less marketable you become. So as a new grad, you really want to gain as much experience as possible and be exposed to a wide range of complex cases. And you want to have a lot of responsibility, because the more responsibilities you have, the better you'll be able to manage your workflow. And time management is a really, really important thing to learn if you ever want to take on a leadership position. And by having all these experiences, you're broadening your skill sets, you're enhancing your clinical experience, and you're increasing your market value. And it's through managing these high acuity complex cases and managing a busy clinic that you truly develop the skills that you need to take your career to the next level and potentially take on leadership roles. So this is really important for professional growth. Location, location, location. Evaluate the location of the job. Think of factors like cost of living and transportation. Typically, in a big city, you have a much higher cost of living compared to the smaller towns or the rural areas. So this means that a job that offers you $100,000, well, that may be sufficient in Alabama, but that $100,000 in San Francisco, that's like pennies, because San Francisco has a very, very high cost of living. So to account for a higher cost of living in San Francisco or any major city, you should really aim for a salary that's at least 20 to 30% higher than the national average. So for example, if the national average for new grad PAs is $100,000, and I'm not saying that that's what it should be, I'm just using that number because it's simple math, then you would need a minimum of $120,000 or $130,000 to maintain a comparable standard of living in San Francisco. And you guys, this is just a rough estimate. You should definitely do your own research and adjust for the cost of living in the area that you are considering. And to be honest, I don't really know what the cost of living is like in Alabama. I've never lived there, but I just assume it's low, so don't come at me. Now, let's move on to the practice setting. You want to evaluate the practice setting. Is the practice you're working for located in a hospital, in a clinic, a private practice, or an academic institution? So each setting offers a unique experience. So you want to consider which setting aligns with your career goals and your preference. So for example, you might initially be very drawn to a prestigious PA job at the renowned institution like the Mayo Clinic. But at the Mayo Clinic, there's a ton of residents and fellows and PAs and NPs and medical students. This means you'll be competing with the entire healthcare team to gain experience in your role. While the prestige name of Mayo Clinic might sound very appealing to you, but it can also mean that you'll have less opportunity for hands-on experience and less autonomy because of all the high-level competition. But if you're working in a small local hospital in a small town like Torrington, Connecticut, you might find that you have a much different advantage. In that case, you have the opportunity to provide a wide range of procedure and treat a diverse population. And with potentially less competition from the residents and the fellows, you might even have more autonomy and more opportunities to gain valuable clinical skills. And what happens when you collect more skills? Well, you level up your resume and you have more leverage to negotiate in your salary. And what happens when you have more money in your pockets? Well, you reach financial independence much faster, which gives you complete control of your career and your life. And isn't that the ultimate goal in life? Now, let's talk a little bit about patient population, the people that you will be serving. Consider the diversity, complexity, and the demographics of the patient that you'll be seeing 40 hours a week during your work week. If you're dealing with highly complex patients, you want to make sure you have a full supportive team to support you in your day-to-day activities. And this team could be other providers, RNs, MAs, tags, admin staff, patient care coordinators, all of them. They play a vital role in helping you provide optimal care and manage complex cases effectively. Now, if you're treating low-level patients and you're comfortable managing these patients on your own, then that's cool. Now, keep in mind that even if you are working in a predominantly healthy population, you might encounter the occasional 85-year-old male with chest pain or abdominal pain with a heart rate of 140. And if you're not equipped to handle those complex patients, then you definitely don't want to sign up for a solo practitioner role. You don't want to be that one person to handle the entire ER with 2 MAs. So during your initial interview, you always want to identify the patient population you're working with and just verify that with the team and make sure you verify with your own 2 eyes. You want to know, are your patient population predominantly 20-year-old vegans who do CrossFit daily? Or are they 85-year-old patients taking 25 different medications? And ask yourself, are you passionate about working with that specific patient population? If not, get out. Now, allow me to share my personal example. When I was living in San Francisco, I received a job offer in Pittsburgh, California, which is about an hour away from San Fran. The patient population was mostly blue-collar workers in a lower socioeconomic area. And during my shadowing interview, everything seemed normal. The patients had very normal complaints, UTIs, URIs, back pain, normal stuff. On my very first day on the job, I was asked to start on a Thursday, which I thought was a little strange, but I didn't question it. It turned out that on Thursdays and Fridays, those were designated narcotic bill days at the clinic. The 3 physicians prescribed a significant amount of narcotics for these blue-collar workers, mainly for back pain, neck pain, and leg pain. So the entire shift felt like I was in a pain clinic. And they all expected me to refill and prescribe those narcotics under my license on those days, Thursdays and Fridays. And on Monday through Wednesdays, I would see regular patients with regular complaints. Now, I remember after that first day, after 8 hours on that job, I felt like I was catfished. I went home, I was really angry, and I contemplated the situation for about 30 seconds. And I decided to quit. I never returned for a second day. And 2 weeks later, they sent me a paycheck for that 1 day of work. I was just so happy to get out of that clinic. I didn't even care for the paycheck. The point is, you might be catfished a lot. And that's pretty common. If you go on multiple interviews, you can see how the office functions. You can see if you're a good fit, and you can see all the little red flags that you might have missed the first or second interview. So the more time you're able to be in the clinic, the more time you're able to be in the hospital and interact with the team, you get a better idea of what you're getting yourself into. And that is it, my friends. If you enjoyed this video, found it valuable, found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more money and medicine content. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.